Good evening, all. Am I audible? Is my audio clear to you? Say yes or no. Is my audio clear? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kader Babu and other person, Charan. Thank you very much. Okay. So today what we do is we will discuss the list data structure. Yesterday we discussed array data structure. Okay. So then today we'll discuss about a list data structure, and then we'll see the difference between these two. Let me share the screen to you. Yeah, how many days, Charan? Okay, so we'll try to cover all the topics until we finish all the topics in this DSA series. Okay, so we'll have this session. Okay, so it may go up to 30 days, 30 to 45 days, because DSA is very, very important from placement point of view, and you should learn all the concepts perfectly. Okay, so for that, you need to spend some time. Okay, so 30 to 45 days, we can cover all the topics. Okay, so today we will talk about this list data structure. So lists are ordered collections of elements. Okay, so what does it mean? Ordered collections of elements. Okay, so meaning that each item in the list is associated with a specific position. Okay, so called as a index. Okay, so that means there is a first element, and there is a second element, and there is a third element. Okay, so like this the elements are ordered. Okay, so collection of all such ordered elements is called a list in Python. Okay, and each position in the list is called as a index, or each element can be accessed by using the index. So insertion order is preserved in a list. Okay, so that means the way or the order in which you insert elements into the list. So in the same order, it is maintained inside the memory of the list. Okay, so that is called insertion. For example, you might have added one element 10 first. Okay, so then 20 next. Okay, so then 30 next. So this order is preserved. This order is a preserved. Okay, so that is called as a insertion order preserved. Then duplicate objects are allowed. Okay, so here also like array, we can store duplicate elements inside the list. 10, 20, again 10, 20, 30. So like this, we can add duplicate elements in the list. Then heterogeneous objects are allowed. Okay, whereas yesterday in previous session, we said that array is a collection of homogeneous elements. It is a collection of homogeneous elements, but here in list you can store heterogeneous objects, meaning that you can store objects of different types. There we said that similar types only will store in array. Okay, but here different data type objects can be stored inside the list. Okay, so that is possible in the list. Okay, so then list is dynamic. That means based on our requirement, we can increase the size of the list and we can decrease the size of the list. Okay, so there is no fixed size. Okay, so you can go on adding elements to the list. Once you create a list, you can go on adding the list. Any number of elements you can go on add to the list. There is no restriction on the size. And you can also delete elements from the list if you think these elements are not required. That means you can decrease the size. Okay, so the size of this list is not fixed, it is dynamic. You can increase or decrease. Then the elements within the list are placed within square brackets. Okay, so generally to represent the list in program we use square brackets. Okay, so when you use these square brackets, then the Python understands that it is a list. Python understands that it is a list data structure. Okay, and the elements inside this list are separated with a comma. This is how we write the elements inside the list. Okay, so it should begin with square bracket and end with the square brackets. Okay, so this is how a list is represented in a Python. Got it? Then list supports both positive and negative indexes. Okay, so we said that elements inside the list accessed using index. Okay, so here also like array, it supports both the positive index and negative index. So positive index means from left to right. When you traverse the list from left to right, okay, so that is positive index. And when you traverse the list from right to left, okay, so you can use a negative index. Example, I have a list containing heterogeneous elements, like first element is an integer 10, then second element is a string. Okay, so then again I have a string here, then again I have an integer number 20, 30, 10 again. Okay, so assume this is my list. This is allowed. Okay, whereas in array all the elements should be of similar type. Only integers are only uh, floating point numbers are only strings. Like this we can store, but here in list we can store heterogeneous elements. Okay, if this is my list, okay, so then how I can access this list? I can access the list by using a positive index and also negative index. Okay, so if this is 10 and this is a, if you look at the memory diagram of this list, okay, so it will be like this inside the memory. Okay, so this entire block of memory is accessed by using the name. Okay, so from left to right the index will be starting from a 0. First element index 0 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 positive indexes. Okay, and when you traverse from right to left, you can assign a negative indexes. Okay, so the last element index starts at a -1, then this is -2, this is -3, this is -4, -5, -6, same as array here. Okay, so if you want to access the third element in the list, okay, so then you can say that list of 2. Okay, so when you say list of 2, this gives the element b here. Similarly, if you access by using the negative index, if you say list of a -1, okay, so this gives the last element in the list, this 10. Okay, so this element it gives. So that is how we can access the elements by using positive index or negative index. Got it? Any doubts in this? Just you can post your doubts in the chat. No doubts? Okay then. Right. So then this is how the list is represented. Okay. Like we said this, the same diagram we can show here. Then list objects are mutable. Okay. So this is very important term that we use in Python. Okay. So mutable means we can change the content inside the list. Okay. So like say for example, I want to replace this element b with some other number. Okay. So then I can access the list like this. So list of 2. If I say list of 2 is equal to something like a 55. Okay. So then what happens? The number this b is removed. This b is removed and 55 will be stored. Okay. So that means you can make changes uh, to the contents present or the elements present in the list. Okay. So elements can be modified. That property is called as a mutability. Okay. So list objects are mutable. This is very, very important. Okay. This term you should understand, you should remember this. Then how do we create the list? Okay, so generally we can create an empty list. Okay, so like say for example, a list can be created just by placing an empty square brackets. Okay, because we represent the list with the help of square brackets. Okay, so when you say list equals to empty square brackets, this creates an empty list. Okay, so it creates an empty list. And if you print this list, it prints the empty list. Okay, so when you say print pass the list here. Okay, so this just prints the empty list, like empty square brackets will be printed on the screen. Okay, right? If you already know the elements in advance, for example you have 3 or 4 elements, then you can create the list directly with initialization, like list is equal to. Okay, so inside the square brackets you store those numbers 11, 22, 33, 44. This way you can create the list if the elements are known in advance directly. Okay, so once the list is created, then it looks like a this inside the memory. Okay, so 11, 22, 33, 44. As usually you can access by using indexes like this. Got it? Similarly, for example, you want to create the list. Okay, so uh, you have some range of numbers with you. Okay, so a range of numbers are available with you. You have generated a range of numbers by using the range function. Okay, so then you want to store them in the form of a list. Okay, so how you can do that? Say for example, like range. Okay, so range something like 1 to 10, I say. Okay, so range 1 to 10. Okay, so the numbers will be generated up to what number it is generated, range function. Can you drop in chat box? Can you type the numbers generated by this range function in chat box? What are the numbers generated? How many numbers are generated? 1 to 10 or 1 to 9? So this range function generates the numbers 1, 2, 3 up to 9 it generates. Okay, I said it stops at before number. Okay, so 1 to 9 numbers are generated. These numbers now I want to store in the form of a list. Okay, so then that you can do by using the function called as a list. Okay, so we have a function called as a list which converts a group of elements into a list. Okay, then it returns that a list. You can collect that in a variable called as a l. Okay, so if you print l here, if you print l, okay, so this prints the list like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so like this it prints the numbers. Okay, so let us verify this in online compiler. Okay, so open online compiler. Now inside the compiler you can just create the list, and you can, I say l is equal to list. Okay, then say range of 1 comma 10. Okay, so 1 to 10 we will generate, then we'll print the list here. L if I print. Okay, so what it displays, now you can see 1 to 9 numbers are displayed. Okay, so this way you can directly create a list dynamically when you don't know the numbers, and dynamically you are generating the numbers and you want to convert them into list. Okay, so you can use the list function and this creates the list and returns that list. Okay, so you can collect that in a variable here. So this is how a list can be created with the help of list function. For example, I have a string with me. Okay, say for example, I have a string like str is available with me. Okay, so str is equal to something like hello is there. This string is available with me. Okay, now I want to convert this string into list. Okay, so what I can say, I can say that I can give this str to the function called as a list. Okay, so list of a str I can say, then it returns a list, and that you can store in a variable called as a el. Okay, so when you print this el, how it would be printed, when you print this L, how it would be printed. Okay, so what happens means it this list function. Okay, so this list function converts each character into an element into the list. Okay, so when you print this list, it will be printed like this. Each character now becomes an element. H is one element, E is another element, L is another element, L is another element, and O is another element. Each becomes an element inside the list. Okay, so you can access these individually like a 0 1 2 3 like this. Okay, so let us verify this. Like say for example, I keep this in comment. Okay, so we'll have a string here, str is equal to like hello. So for string you can use double quotes or a single quotes in Python, both are allowed in Python. Okay, so then I convert this into a list. A string can be converted into a list. Okay, so any sequence if you give to list function, it converts that into list. Okay, so if I run this, now you can see each character becomes an element inside the list. Okay, so if you print a particular character here, say print. Okay, so like l of 2, if you print, what it prints, just you can see here. Okay, so it prints L here. Okay, 0 1 and 2. L of 2 is for the first L, so the first L it prints. This way you can access individual elements inside the list. Okay, now if you try to print a character of a string. Okay, so like we do in C and Java. Okay, so like str of 2, if I try to print, what happens, we'll see. Okay, so it has printed same. Okay, so that means after converting then each element has a each character has become an element. So individually you can access these character easily in this, and now you can modify this also. You can modify these individual characters. Okay, so I will show you here. Say for example, if I say L of 2. Okay, so L of 2 or L of 1, I'll say. Okay, so L of 1 is equal to, so instead of E, now I store A here. Okay, so then I print a L value here. Now what happens, we'll see here. Now you can say HALLO, it has replaced. But if I try to replace the same in the string, what happens, we'll see. If I try to say str of 1 is equals to, str of 1 is equal to A. If I try to store and if I try to print the string, whether the string changes or not, we will see here. Okay, so I try to print the string here. Now you can see the error. Okay, so what error it has given? str object does not support item assignment. Okay, so that means the string object cannot be modified. The string object cannot be modified. Okay, so that's why these strings are called as a immutable. These strings are called as a immutable. Okay, so we call the strings. Okay, so we call the strings as a immutable. We can say that the string is immutable. There is another term. Okay, so just to introduce this immutability. Okay, so strings are immutable. That means you cannot change it. Once you create a string, okay, you cannot change this string. That's it. It is fixed. You cannot change any character in that. Okay, so if you want to change, what you can do, you can convert that. You can convert that into in the form of a list. Okay, so then you can make changes inside the list. You can handle that string in the form of a list, but the original string remains as it is. The original string remains as it is. There won't be any change in the original string. Got it? Okay, so this is very important observation in Python. Next, hope you got the point. So once we have list, okay, so then how we can access the elements of the list. Okay, so individual elements we want to access, or group of elements we want to access. Okay, so we can access the elements by using index, as we have seen in the example, or you can also use a slice operator here. This colon operator you can use here. Okay, so anyone we can use by index, or we can use first we look at how we can use by index. Okay, so list also follows zero based index. That means the first element index is 0. Okay, and it supports both the positive index and negative index. This we know, positive means left to right and negative means right to left. Okay, so this we know. Already we have seen example by accessing using the index. Okay, so let us now work out how we can access using the slice operator. Like we discussed using the index operator. Okay, assume that I have a list like 10, 20, 30 and 40. Okay, so if you print a particular element by index, okay, so like L of 2, you can say this index operator you can use. So this prints 0, 1, 2 means 30 it prints. Negative index also we can use in this. Then using slice operator. Okay, so the syntax is like this. Okay, so list one of, okay, so starting position and ending position and a step. Okay, so this start indicates the index value where the slice has to start. The default value is 0. That means if you don't specify this, by default it takes starts from the 0 onwards. Okay, then stop indicates the index where the slice has to end. Okay, so by default it is end of the list here. So if you specify any number, then it stops at that number. This stop -1 place it stops. Okay, so then this step indicates okay, so you want to jump one after the other, or you want to jump every two elements, or you want to jump every three elements. Okay, so how many elements you want to jump one after the other, that step is indicated. If you don't specify this, then the default value is 1 here. That means it accesses the elements one after the other in this way. Okay, so this is how we write the syntax here. Okay, so what does this statement indicate here? Okay, so that means the list one elements starting at this position and ending at this okay, so will be a slice will be taken, and that will be assigned to a variable called as a list2. Okay, so it is assigned to a variable called as a list2. Okay, so let us take a simple example here. For example, I have a list like containing okay, so a list containing the values like 2, 5, 8, 10, 15, something like 19. Okay, so assume this is my list. Okay, so it has some values. Now if I say, if I print okay, so l of something like a starting position and ending position I am giving. Okay, so L of 2:7. What does this mean? This is the first argument says starting index, second argument stays ending index. Okay, so what does it perform is, it starts at index 2. Okay, so what are the index values? This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so these are the index values of this list here. So start at index 2. Okay, so that means it starts at index 2. Okay, so it starts at 2, index 2 element is 8, then go up to 7. Okay, that means it stops at a 6 here. Okay, so then we'll say that that means it prints 8, 10, 15, 19. There is no index 6. Okay, so end of the list reached here, then it stops it goes up to the end of the list. That's it. Okay, but it won't give any error. It won't give any error. It prints the list up to the end of the list starting at this position. Okay, so but instead of this, if you have used a slice operator like this. Okay, so print L of a, okay, so something like a 2 to 4 if you say. Okay, so what that is print? It prints the output like starting at index 2. Okay, so that means 8 go up to index 3. 4 means it stops at before element. Okay, so then 2 and 3 index elements 8 and 10 will be printed here. 8 and 10 will be printed here. Okay, so let us verify this. We have a list here. Okay, I'm just deleting everything. This also I'm deleting. Yeah, there is low battery. Yeah, got it. Just battery is low. Okay, now it is plugged in. Okay, remove this. We'll create a list here. Say something like L equals to. Okay, so with the same numbers, if you want to create, you can create the same numbers. Otherwise, you create some random numbers list here. Okay, so 2, something like 5. Okay, so then 7. Okay, so then say 10, 12, 15. Okay, so something like 18. Now we'll print the list, access the list by using the slice here. Okay, so if I say 2 2, if I say 2 2, again there is a problem with battery. Okay, so let me just okay, right. So if I say print 2 2, and if you don't give the index here, okay, so then it prints up to end of the list here. Now you can see from index 2 onwards, it goes up to end of the list. Okay. If instead of that, if you specify something here, okay, so for example, if I specify the index 10, which is not part of this list, okay, so will it give error? No. Okay, so it stops at a end of the list, even though the index 10 is not present in, okay, so it goes up to end of the list and then it stops, but it won't give any error here. Okay, so now you can see here, if you print the list starting from 2 to something like a 4, if you say, okay, so what values it prints, just you can look at. So index 2 and 3 values, it stops at index 3 only. Okay, so index 2 is 7 and index 3 is 10. These two values are printed here. 4 is exclusive. Okay, so not included 4, but the starting position is inclusive and ending position is exclusive, meaning that it stops at before position. It stops at a before position. That is the meaning of these starting position and ending position there. Okay, so this way you can access the list by using the slice operator. Okay, so then how we can traverse the list, that also we should understand. Traversing the elements inside the list. Okay, so each element, accessing each element of the list is called as a traversing. Okay, so that you can do by using a while loop and also by using a for loop. That means each element you need to visit, no, so you should use a loop there. Okay, so either use a while loop or use a for loop here. Okay, so how we can access each element by using while loop. Okay, so how this while loop is used on the list, that also we need to understand. Okay, assume we have a list like this. L is something like 10, 5, 15, 8. Okay, so 25. This way we have a list here. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to traverse the list starting from the first index onwards, 0 index onwards. Okay, so this 0 you have to store somewhere in a variable here, I is equal to 0. Okay, so then you go on repeat. Okay, so while, okay, so condition here, while I less than a length of a list here. Okay, because a list is dynamic, number of elements is not known to us. Okay, so to know the number of elements, we have a function called as a length function. Okay, so this you can use here, while I less than length of L. So when you say length of L, what does it returns? It gives number of elements, 1 2 3 4 5 it gives. So it gives the value 5. So I value is 0 here, 0 less than 5. Yes, now you can print here. Okay, so after a while you should use colon inside the in Python. Okay, so then you can say print. Okay, so what you can print each item L of I you can print here. Okay, so then after you should go to the next index 1. Okay, so that means you should increment the I value. So you can say I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, so then I value becomes 2 here. I value becomes 1 here. Okay, so then again it goes up and checks the condition, 1 less than 5. Yes, then again print L of 1. Okay, so 10 is printed, L of 1 means 5 is printed, then I value becomes a 2 here. Okay, so this is index 2 value, then 15 is printed. Okay, so then I value becomes a 3 here, then 8 is printed, then I value becomes a 4 here, then 25 is printed, then I value becomes 5 here. Okay, so then it goes up here. So 5 less than 5 false, then it comes out. Okay, so this way simple while loop you can use to access the elements inside the loop list, you can say. So here you should take care of incrementing this I value. If you miss this I value, this while loop may fall into infinite loop. Okay, so instead of that, the better way to access a list in Python is using the for loop. Okay, so the same list we can access by using the for loop. Okay, so no need to write any condition here. Just you can say that okay, so for num. Okay, so for num in L, you can just write like this. Okay, so that means for each number in a L. Okay, so I want to print this num. Just I say print num. Print num. So what it does, it supplies values one by one from the list into this num. First 10 will be supplied to num here. Okay, so then print num, then 10 will be printed. Okay, then it supplies the next value to num, then print num, 5 will be printed. Okay, so then supplies the next value to num, print num, 15 will be printed. Then supplies the next value to num. Okay, so then print num, 8 will be printed. Then supplies a next value to the num, so 25 will be printed. Okay, so no more elements, list ends here. Okay, so then this loop stops. There is no condition checking here. Okay, so it the loop this for loop repeats until there are elements in the list. Okay, so once the list elements exhausted, then the loop terminates automatically. This loops terminates automatically. Okay, so this is very handy. Using the for loop for accessing a list is very handy and easy also. Got it? Right. So before we go for this, okay, so now I want to just ask you something. For example, I have a list like this. I have a list like this. Okay, so I create a list. Assume that my list contains the elements. Okay, so 11, 22, 33, 44, 55. Okay, then 66. Okay, so better I directly write the code and I'll explain there so that you can see the execution also. For this, with the help of code, directly I will explain. You can see this is how we can traverse the list. See here, using the while loop, we can access the list, and using the for loop, we can access the list this way. Okay, so this is how we write the for loop for num in a L. If this is our list, this is our list, we can write then followed by colon, then print num here. Okay, so now what we want is, if we have a list like this, we have a list like this, we'll write a small program. Okay, so this is my list. Okay, so we want to print only the even numbers from this list. We want to print only even numbers. We don't want all the numbers from the list. Okay, only the even numbers I want to print from this list. Okay, so how we can generate code for this? How we can handle list given a problem of this kind? Okay, so let us directly execute the code in the browser. Okay, so online compiler, I'll use the online compiler. We'll take, assume this is my list. Okay, so assume this is my list. Now I want to print only even numbers from this list. Okay, so then where those even numbers are present inside the list, I do not know. Okay, so where they are present inside the list, I do not know. So what I need to do, I need to traverse each and every element inside the list. Okay, so you cannot say that they are present only at this place, at this index. Okay, and all are present only at this index. Okay, so they may be at any index, they may be at any index. Okay, so that's why you need to traverse each element of the list here. Okay, so while traversing, then you need to check whether a number is even number or odd number. How do we know that a number is even or odd? Can you just type in the chat? How do we know that a number is even or odd? Yes. How do we know that? Number is even or odd. If the number is divisible with 2, we say that the number is even. Yes or no? Okay, so the same thing we need to test here. Okay, so if we test whether the number is divisible with 2 or not, then you can decide that number is even here. Okay, so for that, first you need to access each element. Now for that we use a for loop here. Okay, say something like for num in a list L. Okay, so for num in a L, then you will get one by one number. Okay, so as I said, each element will be passed into this variable called as a num. Okay, so first the first number comes into this num. Okay, so first num will contain a 2 here. Now you decide whether this 2 is even number or odd number. Okay, so how do we decide it is 2 even number or odd number? That means you need to divide this with a 2. Okay, so what is the logic? You need to divide this with 2. Mathematically, how we decide? You divide with 2. Okay, so then if the remainder is 0, then you can say that it is even number. Okay, for example, if you divide a number with 2, okay, so if you don't get the remainder as 0, then we say that it is not an even number, it is odd number. This is how mathematically we decide. Okay, so this mathematics logic you need to convert into programming logic here. Okay, so how it can be converted into programming logics here? Okay, so what we are testing here, what we need to test, we need to test the remainder after division. Okay, so to give that remainder, we have an operator. That means what we need to do is we need to divide this num with 2. Okay, So we need to divide this num with 2. But after division, we don't want this coefficient. This slash operator gives the coefficient, but we want only remainder. For that, we have an operator called as a modulo division operator, percentage symbol. Okay, so num mod 2, what it does is it divides the num with 2 and gives the remainder. Okay, so that remainder you can collect in a variable. Okay, so something like a remainder or r. Then you can test if r is equals to 0. If r is equals to 0, then you can say that it is an even number if that remainder is equal to 0. Okay, so instead of collecting them in another separate variable, here itself you can test here. Okay, so I can write the code in short like this. Now I can say if num mod 2, if num mod 2 is equals to 0, here itself you can test here. So if the remainder is 0, then you can say that even number. So what we need to do, need to print that number. Okay, so then simply we'll say that L of okay, so directly we are getting the num. No, so directly you print the num value, that's it. So it prints the num. Okay, so then num gets next number 5 it gets. Okay, so 5 it divides with 2. 5 it divides with 2. Okay, so then here you are getting the remainder 0. No, okay, so then it won't print that 5. So for whatever numbers you get remainder 0, only those numbers will be printed. Okay, so that means you will get 2, 10, 12 and 18. These numbers will be printed. Okay, so let us execute this code and let us verify our output. Now you can say 2, 10, 12 and 18 printed on the screen. Yes or no? Okay, so this is how we can develop a simple code to print even numbers, or you want to print only odd numbers. You can develop some logic so that it gives the correct output. Okay, next. Yeah, so we'll go with the presentation. Done. Then there are some functions by which we can access the list elements. Okay, so you can perform operations on the list. Okay, so the first function is called as a length function. This function returns the number of elements present in the list. It returns the number of elements present in the list. Say for example, if this is our list containing 11, 22, 32. If we say print length, then it prints the length as a 4. Then there is another function called as a count. Okay, so this returns the number of occurrences of a specified item in the list. Okay, so how many times a particular element is occurring. Okay, so you want to count, then you can use this function called as a count here. Okay, say for example, I have this list containing 1, 2, 2, 3. Now I want to count how many times this 1 is occurring. Okay, so what it gives? It gives the result as a 1 here, because 1 is occurring only one time. For example, if I ask n dot count 2, okay, so you should call these functions with the help of list name. Okay, so always list name, then use the function like list name dot count, something like you should use. Okay, so count how many times 2 occurring in this n, that is the meaning here. Okay, so when you use like this, then it gives how many times 1 2 3 and 4 times, so it gives the answer as a 4. And similarly n dot count 3, okay, how many times 3 is occurring? 2 times, then this gives the answer as a 2. So like this, you want to count occurrences of each element, then you can use this function count. Then when you say count 4, 4 is available in this list? No, it is not available. Okay, so then you will get the error message as a 0, but you won't get any error here. Okay, it won't give any error here. Please remember, it says that 4 is not available, no, so that's why you will get the output as a 0. Then index function, you want to find the first occurrence of a particular element in the list, because the list may contain duplicate elements. Okay, so in such case, which index it should return? It returns the first occurrence. Always it returns the first occurrence, index function. Okay, example, I have a list like this. Now if I ask n dot index of 1, it gives the result as 0. If I say n dot index of 2, now you can see 2 occurring 4 times here. Okay, but the first occurrence index is 1 here, so that's why it returns the index value as 1. Now if I say what is the index of 3 here, so what is the first index of this 3? So it is 0 1 2 3 4 and 5, so it returns the number 5. For example, 4 not there, no. Now if I try to ask index of 4, in this case it gives this error, remember. Okay, so you will get error like this, 4 is not in the list. This error message you will get. So which functions returns error, which functions don't give error, you should remember. Then append function, so add items at the end of the list. You want to add item at the end of the list. Assume you have an empty list. When you say append list dot append a, okay, so since it is empty, only a will be added. Again when you say list dot append b, then after a, b will be added. Okay, again if you say list dot append c, c will be added. Okay, and if you print the list, now see the order is maintained. First a added, then next b, then next C. Append means after adding one element, then it adds at the end. If you add one more element, that new element will be added at the end of the list, like this. Append always adds at the end. Then insert function. So instead of adding at the end, you want to add at some specified index. One item you want to add at a specified index, then you can use this insert function. Okay, so then you can say n 1 2 3 4 5. Now you want to add 88 into this. Okay, so n dot insert 1 comma 88. Okay, so what happens here? What happens? Whether the list looks like this, is it at index 1? No. Okay, so whether this 2 is replaced with 88 3 4 5, is it looks like this, or then 88 will be inserted in index 1 and all elements will move to the next position. Which one is correct in this case? Can you guess? First one or second one? Can you write your answer? Which one is correct? Guess the answer. So in this case, insert function, what it does is, okay, so it creates a space and all elements will be moved towards right. Okay, so this second answer is correct. Okay, so you can say that as we know you can access the elements by using index. Okay, so instead of using insert function, you can ask me, sir, can't we say n of 1 is equal to 88? Can't we write n of 1 is equal to 88? Okay, so you can write like this, no issue. You can write like this. Okay, but if you write like this, what happens? The number present at index 1 will be replaced, will be overwritten. The old number is gone. The old number is no more available. Yeah, so this. Okay, so when you do this, then the new list created looks like this. Okay, so 2 will be overwritten here by 88. So 2 is gone. But when you use the insert function, okay, so all elements remains as it is and new element will be inserted at specified position. That is the difference. Okay, right. When you print n, it looks like this. For example, you have this one. Okay, so now I want to insert a element at index 10, but we have only index up to 4 here. Okay, so at index 10, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I want to add this 777 at index 10. What happens? Will it keeps remaining elements as zeros and add this at 10? No. Okay, so it always adds the number at end of the list. At end of the list. Okay, so that means the list looks like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 777, like this. Similarly, if you use a negative index -10, okay, so but you have negative indexes like -1, -2, -3, -4, only -5 you have, but -10 index is not available. Okay, so in such case, it adds before this -5 index. Okay, so then your list looks like this. It is 999. Okay, so this is how your list looks like here. Okay, so 999 will be added first, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this way your list look like. Okay, assume that this is an independent instruction, this is independent instruction. Okay, so if you consider both one after the other, then here 777 will be there. Then in extend function, okay, so to add a group of elements to existing list, you can use extend function. Okay, so list2 dot extend list1. That means all elements of list1 will be added at the end of a list2. Okay, so that is how a group of elements, instead of adding one element, you can add a group of elements at a time. For example, I have order 1 containing these 3 elements: chicken, mutton, and fish. Then I have order 2 with these elements. Okay, so with these 3 elements. Now, if I extend order 1 with order 2, okay, and if I print order 1, now the order 1 looks like this. Okay, so this list will be added at the end, extended this way. Okay, so group of elements, all elements will be added to the list, first list. This way it will be added. Okay, then for example, I have like 3 elements in list 1. Okay, now I want to extend this with this element. Okay, but here if you observe this, okay, so this is a string here. This is a string here. It is not a list here. Okay, so in previous case it is a list here. Order 2 is another list. So extending one list with another list. Okay, but in this case, okay, so it is a string here. Okay, so when you ask to extend the list by using a string. Okay, I said each character becomes an element here. Okay, so it converts first this string into a list. Okay, so it converts the string into list, and then it extends. Okay, so it looks like this. If you print the order, okay, so your order contains each character now becomes an element here. Like this, it will be added. Then remove function, you want to remove one element from the list. Okay, so if duplicate elements are available, then the first occurrence element will be removed. Assume that I have these 4 elements in the list. If I say remove 10, there are 2 occurrences of 10 here. Just you can see. So always the first occurrence element will be removed here. Now, if you print n, it looks like this. Okay, 20, 10, 30. Okay, so the first occurrence element will be removed from the list. Then pop function. So what is it? It removes the element and also returns the last element from the list. It always removes last elements, and it also returns that element, removed element. Okay, but whereas in previous case, when you say remove, only that element will be removed. Okay, and the list is updated like this. Whatever element you say, it is removed. But when you say pop, okay, so when you say pop, it removes the last elements and also returns that last element. Assume this is our list. When I say n dot pop, okay, so the last element, which is the last element, 40 is the last element, that will be removed again. So after removing this, how your list looks like? Your list becomes n becomes like this. Okay, again when you say pop, it removes this element 30 from the list. Then your list looks like this, 10 and 20. And if you print n, see, now see. Okay, so n dot prop, the element removed, and that removed element is returned. So that's why when you say print 40 is printed, and when you say print 30 is printed. Okay, but internally the list will be updated like this. Your list will be updated like this internally. And when you print n, now you can see your new n, how it looks like this way. For example, if you list is empty and you try to remove one element, top element from the list, in such case it gives the error because there are no elements in the list and you are trying to remove one element, pop one element. Okay, so then it gives the error. You cannot pop from the empty list. That error will be given here. Okay, if you want to pop a particular index element, that is also possible. You pass that index as a argument. Okay, so pop 3, index 3 element will be deleted here. Okay, so this is also possible. Then reverse, just to reverse the list, you can use this reverse. N dot reverse means the list will be reversed. It looks like a 40, 30, 20, 30, 10, sorry. Okay, so the list completely reversed. Then sort function, you want to arrange the numbers in ascending order, then you can use this sort function. So default order is ascending order for numbers, and for strings it is alphabetical order. Okay, so example, I have a list containing the numbers like this. Now if I say n dot sort, okay, so it will be sorted like this. For example, I have a list with strings like this. Now if I say s dot sort, then the list will be sorted in a alphabetical order. Okay, so apple, banana, cat, dog, in alphabetical order it will be sorted. Okay, so but remember to use this sort function. Okay, so the list must contain a homogeneous elements. If it contains heterogeneous element, it gives error. That means one string, one integer number, okay, one floating point number, like this heterogeneous elements are there, then this sort function won't sort, it gives the error. Okay, so this is another important observation to be made. Like You want to sort in descending order. Okay, so can't we use the sort function? Yes. Okay, so we can use the sort function. Only thing is you need to use an attribute called as a reverse, and you have to give the value of that attribute as a true. If you say reverse is equal to true, then it sorts the numbers in descending order. Okay, example, just see here. Now, if I say n dot sorter, it will be sorted in ascending order like this. Okay. But if you say n dot sorter reverse is equal to true, reverse is equal to true, then the list will be sorted in a descending order. Okay. So your n, if you print n, your n looks like this. In descending order, it will be sorted. So here you should pass this attribute reverse as argument to this sort function and say it is true. Okay, you can also ask, sir, when you are using the attribute reverse is equal true, can we assign a false to the reverse attribute? Yeah, you can say when you say reverse is equal to false, then it becomes ascending order. Okay, so that means by default, when you keep the sort function without argument empty, okay, so by default, the Python supplies this attribute and whose value is false. Reverse is equal to false. It is nothing but reverse is equal to false only. These two are equivalent. Okay. Then aliasing and cloning of list objects. This is one more important uh, topic to be observed. Okay, so what do we mean by aliasing and what do we mean by cloning? The process of giving another reference variable name to the existing list is called aliasing. Okay, so giving another name to the existing list is called aliasing. Okay, assume that my list 10 20 30 has a name called as a x. Now if I say y is equal to x, okay, if I say y is equal to x, then y also points to the same list object containing these elements. X is pointing to this list object. Then when you say y is equal to x, it won't create one more list. Okay, so to the same list, y also points to this 10 20 30 40 list. Okay, so that means now there is only one list. You can access this list with the help of the name x. You can also access the list with the help of a name y. That means for the same list, you have given one more name whose name is x. Now you have given another name called as a y. Okay, so if you print the address, okay, so that is accessed by using the function called as id of x and id of y. Assume that the address is 2000, then id of y also prints the address 2000. Okay, so that means both pointing to the same object, list object. Okay, this is called aliasing. So there is a problem in this aliasing. What is the problem? That means since I can access the list from this name or this name, that means if I make a change with one name, the change is reflected in the other name also. That is the problem. Okay, like this, for example, this is my list. I given another name, aliasing. Okay, now if I say y of 1 is equal to 777. Okay, so what happens here? 10 20 30 40. This is my list x here. Okay, so when I say y is equal to x, okay, so y also contains the same list here. Y also contains this list. Y of 1 means this. Now this 20 is replaced with 777. Okay, when I say print x, it prints. See here. So I made change with this name, but the change is sorry, I made change with this name y. Okay, and if I use the name x here, okay, so the change is reflected on this name also, because since both are pointing to the same list, then the change will be reflected here. This is the problem. Okay, so you can ask, I don't want this change to be reflected, sir. Okay, so in such case, what you need to do is you need to clone. You need to create another similar type of object here. Okay, so creating exactly duplicate independent object is called as a cloning. You have to clone that object. Then it creates one more object. Okay, so this you can do by using the slice operator or by using a copy function. Okay, so we use both here. By using slice operator, how you can clone it, like x is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40. Okay, so now you can say y is equal to x square brackets colon, just you put colon. Okay, so there is a difference. Y is equal to x, this is called aliasing. This is called aliasing. Then y is equal to x followed by empty square brackets with colon. That means no starting and ending. That means take all the values from x. Okay, so then it takes a copy of values from x and assigns to y. Okay, so in such case what happens? Y gets another separate list here containing 10, 20, 30 and 40. Okay, so x has its own copy 10, 20, 30, 40. Just like a Xerox copy of x is taken and assigned to y. Okay, so y will have its own copy, x will have its own copy, like this. This is called cloning. Okay, now when you say y of 1 is equal to 777, in y this value is changed here. Okay, so it is changed only on the Xerox. See here, the original remains as it is. The original remains as it is. Okay, so when you print x, still x remains same. Okay, so these kind of questions generally will be asked in a competitive examinations, MCQs, a technical MCQs question. Okay, so these kind of questions will come in examinations. Okay, placement examinations. When you print y, see here, the change is reflected only in the y, this 777. Okay, so this is what happens here. Then difference between equal to and copy function. Okay, so you can use a copy also. You can also create by using the copy function. You have x here. Okay, so x dot copy, instead of using the slice operator, you can say x dot copy. It copies x into y. So when you say y of 1 is equal to 777, and if you print only y, so that means y gets a different copy, x has its own copy here, like this. So equal to operator and copy function. What is the difference? Equal to meant for aliasing, okay, and copy function is meant for cloning. Okay, so instead of using the slice operator, better if you want to create another duplicate copy, use this copy function. Okay, you can also use mathematical operators like plus and star, asterisk on a list object. Plus indicates concatenation. Okay, so when you say list 1 plus list 2, so it adds the two lists. That means second list is concatenated with a list 1. Okay, and similarly when you say 3 into list 1, 3 into list 1. Okay, so that means repeat all the elements of a list 1 3 times. Okay, so it looks like this. For example, your list 1 is something like a 1 2 3. Okay, so when you say 3 into list 1, repeat all the elements of list 1 3 times. Okay, so that means it looks like this: 1 2 3, then 1 2 3, then 1 2 3. It repeats 3 times. Okay, so it doesn't mean that multiply each element with 3. No, repeat list 3 times. Okay, so all the elements will be repeated like this. Then membership operator, you want to check whether a particular element is present inside the list or not. For that, we have two membership operators, in and not in. They are called as a membership operators. Okay, so sometimes the question may be, which of the following is a membership operator? Okay, so you are given four options, and in that, if in is present or not in is present, you can choose one of this. Okay, in is used to test whether it is a member or not. Okay, so not in is used to test it is not a member of this. Example, you can see n value I have 10, 20, 30, 40. Now I can say 10 in n, whether 10 is present in n, yes or no. If it is yes, it returns true, otherwise it returns a false. So since 10 is present, here we get the result as a true here. Okay, and 10 not in n, 10 not in n. Okay, so 10 not present in n, no. Okay, so here it is present, so that's why we'll get the result as a false. whether 50 in n, no, 50 not present. Okay, so here we get the result as a false. 50 not in n, 50 not there in n, yes, it is not there, so you get the result as a true here. Okay, so this is how the membership operators are used. Then list comprehensions. Okay, so these list comprehensions, that means writing a concise code for a lengthy code using the list. Okay, so that is called a list comprehension, is a simple way of defining and creating a list in Python. Okay, so generally in mathematics we use like this. It is all elements x square such that x belongs to n. Okay, so you take each x value from n and square it, and all such elements will be the new set obtained. This is what the meaning of this. Okay, so this kind of notation we can use in, and that is nothing but the list comprehension. Okay, so example where we use to avoid a loop, instead of using a loop, you can use the list comprehension like this. For example, you want to find square of each list item. Okay, so square of each list item you want to find out. Okay, so how you do generally, how you do, you take a list. Okay, so uh, you take what is that, a for loop. Okay, so then using the for loop, you square each element and then you print that element. Okay, or store in another list. Okay, so that gives the square of okay, so instead of using the that for loop, okay, so instead of using that for loop, so what you can do is you can use list comprehension. Okay, so first let us look at using the for loop, how you can do this. For example, if your array contains nums 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Okay, so now you want to use a for loop and print this. So what you can do, you can create a new variable. Okay, so you can create a new variable called as a, okay, so new list or a new nums. Okay, or nums1, some list you can create here. Okay, so empty list you create here. Okay, so after creating the empty list, then you take each element from this list and square it and add to this new list here. Okay, so how we can do that? For something like okay, so n in nums, for n in nums. Okay, so you'll get each element here. So what you need to do, you need to square it. How do you square it? There is a operator called as a double asterisk. Okay, so then n square it. Okay, so you will get square value. Okay, so this square value, what you need to do, you need to add to this new nums. Okay, so since it is an empty list, so to add an element to the list, what is the function we can use? You can use the function called as a append here. Okay, so where to append? To the nums1. So you can say nums1 dot append, nums1 dot append. So number will be squared and added to nums1. So your nums1 looks like this. Your nums1 now contains 10 square is nothing but 100. Okay, so then it gets the next number, squared it. Okay, so then it gets the next number. Okay, so it is 400. Okay, so then next number 900. Like this, each element square will be stored in a nums1. Okay, yes or no? And after coming out from the loop, if you print nums1, then you will get this list, squared list you will get. Okay, now instead of using this for loop 4 lines of code, okay, so you can use list comprehension, a simple way of writing this loop. In single line, you can write this entire code. Okay, so how you can use list comprehension? I am using list comprehension. Just see here. I am using the list comprehension. Okay, so how you can write list comprehension here? How you can write the list comprehension here? It is same. The for loop, instead of writing a for loop in 3-4 lines, the entire thing can be obtained in a single line. Okay, so what you can do is, okay, so assume that this is our nums1, this is our first line here. Okay, so you have nums with these elements. Okay, now I want to create a new list here. Okay, so new list, nums2 I say this time. Okay, so my new list nums2 should be a list. Okay, it should be a list. Okay, so list containing what? Okay, containing what? Containing all elements. Okay, so that means each element you need to retrieve from this nums, yes or no. Okay, so for that, here you can use a loop here, same for num in nums, for num in nums, you can say. So this loop, what it does, it supplies each value of num here. Okay, so this num squared value I want. Okay, so nums2 is such that it is nothing but a square of it is nothing but a square of this num square. It is num square. Okay, so where from this num value I will get? From this loop here. Okay, so that means you can combine the result followed by this. Okay, only thing is nums2 is a list such that it is num square value, it contains elements in this form, num square value. Where from this num I'll get? You can use a for loop here, you give a space and you can write for num in nums here, the entire 4 lines of code. Okay, so this entire thing now you can keep inside the print statement. You can keep this entire thing inside the print statement. Okay, so these 3 lines of code, now I have written only in single line. That is the advantage of using the list comprehensive, a simple and concise code you can write. Okay, so writing these kind of statements in Python you should learn. List comprehension, if you practice list comprehension, that is well and good. Got it? Any doubt in this? Okay, so that's all for the list data structure. Okay, so practice more problems on this list data structure. This helps you uh, more in creating a linked list and other things. Okay, so okay, thank you one and all. So if you found this video useful, please like the video and also share this video among your friends. And if you are new to this channel, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon for more such updates. Thank you one and all.